Hello there. Today I am talking about 3 practical breathing techniques that can help us when we're feeling worried. So I'm just going to launch straight into them, and a little bit after I've spoken about the breathing techniques I can explain a bit more about them. So when we're feeling really stressed, sometimes it can be really difficult to relax and to remember to do any breathing. So the first breathing technique I want to share is the SOS breath. And SOS means sigh out slowly. And so when we're feeling really under stress, we're rushing around, perhaps rushing late to a meeting or stuck in traffic and we're late, anything that can cause us stress, remember to sigh out slowly. And it literally is just like this. I don't know whether the picture is big enough to show you how my shoulders drop with my breath as I do that. And that's just a very quick way of helping you to relax when you're feeling really busy. And if you can do several of those breaths, that will really help just to calm you down. So that's the first technique, sigh out slowly. The second technique is a little bit more complicated in that it involves having to count. But again, this is something that I use when I'm maybe driving somewhere. I'm focusing on the traffic, but also if I'm worrying about something, if I start doing this breathing technique, that helps to calm me down and to focus more on what I'm doing in that moment, rather than my brain going here, there and everywhere, thinking about all the things I've got to do. And so this one is, we're trying to actually have about 5 breaths in a minute, which is really quite slow breathing. And the way to do it is to breathe to a count of 5. So ultimately where you're heading for is you're breathing into a count of 5 and you're breathing out to a count of 5. And hello, if you're there, please do say hello. Yes, so breathe in for a count of 5 and breathe out for a count of 5. But the way to build up to this is you might need to do it quite slowly. So you might breathe in for a count of 1 and breathe out for a count of 1. Hello, Heather. And then breathe in for a count of 2, breathe out for a count of 2, breathe in for a count of 3, breathe out for a count of 3, and so on until you reach a count of 5. So it'd be breathing in 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and then out 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And if you can keep that going for a few minutes, I think you'll find it'll be very calming. And it can help as you're breathing out to say, mind, slowing down. And you just say that in your head, in rhythm with your breathing. Breathe in again for 5, breathe out for 5. And as you breathe out, say to yourself, body, slowing down. It's just a sort of reminder that your whole system is actually slowing down and you're relaxing. So that's the second method. And the third method of breathing is something that we use in yoga. And you can envisage this as either a rectangle or a square. And what we're doing is breathing in to a certain count and then holding the breath in the body for another short count, and then breathing out for a count and holding the breath outside the body. So you can see it's a sort of 4-sided structure, and it's up to you whether or not you want to make it a rectangle or a square. And the difference between the 2 types of breathing is that with the rectangle, you're keeping the numbers, you're breathing in, say, for 4, holding the breath for 2, breathing out for 4, and holding the breath again for 2. So that's why it's like a rectangle, because it's not even numbers. And with the square breathing, what you're doing is you're holding the breath for the same amount of time as you're breathing in and out. So you might breathe in for a count of 4, hold for a count of 4, breathe out for a count of 4, and then hold the breath outside the body for a count of 4. And although that sounds complicated, actually, if you practice it, it's not complicated at all. And it's actually really soothing. And I think part of it is that you are actually focusing on the counting rather than anything else that you've got to think about. And this is something I quite often use if I can't sleep at night. And it just really helps me to be really calm. And I find the one that works for me is the rectangle. So I'll breathe in for 4, hold for 2, breathe out for 4, and hold for another 2. And just keep doing that. Quite often I find I've fallen asleep by the time I've done that a few times. So do try that. So that's 3 types of breathing. SOS, breathing in and out to a count of 5, and then the rectangle or square breathing, where you breathe and hold. And the reason this works is that when we're breathing out, and it's really important to focus on the out breath, is because the out breath is what's associated with all the sort of calmer functions of our body, like our digestion and our sleep and wake cycles and the healing of wounds. Whereas when we're breathing in, that's sort of like activating us, and that's helping us to our brains and bodies to work. So the breathing in and out, when we're not worried, they're sort of working in tandem with each other. But when we're worried, we tend to be producing more sort of adrenaline, which is what we produce when we're having an in-breath. And so breathing out is really thought to be the best way to help us with our breathing, to help us relax. So I hope that's helpful. What I'm going to do is I'm writing my blog about this at the moment, and when it's written I'll add a link to it on the bottom of this particular live feed. Thanks Heather for saying that's useful. I hope it is. So I'll put the blog at the bottom of my live feed, so do feel free to read that if you'd like. Thanks very much for joining me, and I'll see you again another day. Thank you. Bye.